Anime and Andy with Diane. That has to be Doreen there with Rose. That's probably the Lozage girl. Dolores and Lozage. These two must have ran around together because they lived across the street from each other. They lived up the street from where Tony lived. Boy, isn't he young there. He wore glasses because it sort of helped to maintain balance. It didn't. Later on, it really didn't help him to see. What he could see, if you could put something in front of him and he could stay there long enough outside with enough light, he could pick something up. But then, because the vision was just coming to a pinpoint, eventually gone. That was a cherry tree. That was wasn't the red cherry, it was the yellow cherries. Delicious. See, we even had tomatoes on the other side. Tomatoes on both sides. Diane, Ricky, and Butch. Saturday or Sunday. He had a Ford then, I'm pretty sure. They didn't have air conditioning yet. I had a 52 Ford. The 46 Ford I had a buggy spring in the front, not separate springs. That Ford was the only one. And in 1949, they took the buggy spring out and put individual springs on each side. 49 was the first Ford without the buggy spring. Diane. This is on 6th Street, probably after we moved there. Martha, Wolf, Diane. This is probably Jill. That's probably them getting ready to go to school. They were all the same age. In fact, Mary Rose was the same age as them, John's sister. Doreen and Diane. Oh, brother. Look at this. Jill, Doreen. Grandma Foley with Diane, Butch, and Doreen. Doreen, probably. Diane, Butch, Doreen. Worcester over at Grandma's. Somebody's glasses. Halloween. That's Butch and Diane. That's either probably Doreen. That's a little steamboat. You put a candle in there. Up on the roof, they had a tank. You put some water in, and they had a little candle put, and the candle would heat the water, form the steam, and there was a tube that went out the back and pushed the boat. That's Rick and Dolores, Butch and Diane, Doreen. There you are, Doreen, Butch, and Diane. Donna Jean Colecci, Loretta was her mother. Loretta was Tony's sister. There was Loretta and then Antoinette and Tony. She was a Rondinelli. Loretta Rondinelli married Felix Colecci. You know where Grandma lived? Tony lived. Laza just lived next door. Well, across the street there was a house, and then next to that house there was a smaller house, and that's where the Coleccis lived. She's widowed now, and she lives in that house by herself. Uncle Andy. Rose, and there's Anna Mae over here, his wife, Grandma Foley. Butch's second birthday. They were our plates, actually. Somebody had given them the wedding present. Diane and Butch. Carl Joyce. His mother was a DeBaldo, and she married this fellow from Chicago. And this was their oldest child. They had two sons. Uncle Nad's grandma's brother was married to Josephine, and her dad, he was a contractor one time. They had a big house in a real rich community in Pittsburgh. And he liked Grandpap's wine. And Mr. Palacio would go downtown to the produce yards. He knew everybody down there. He knew everybody everywhere. And he would get us a watermelon. And he'd come visit because he knew Pap would give him a gallon of wine. He liked Pap's wine. And that's probably where one of them watermelons came from. Every summer you waited to buy watermelon because there was no watermelon in winter. I mean, it isn't like today. His watermelons were delicious. And they were extra big because they came from the produce yards. Doreen. Butch, Diane, and Doreen. Grandma Foley. How come he's a blurred? That's Aunt Rose. That's Aunt Anime. She was next. She wasn't the next in age, but she was the next sister. Helen, Anime, Dorothy, and Rose. Rose, Dorothy, Uncle Jim, Diane, and I guess Doreen. At the Foley's on Oak something was the name of the street. See, they used to live in Hazelwood, and Dorothy's oldest brother was building a house up in Lincoln Place, which was still part of Pittsburgh. We got the foundation done, and a lot of people lived in the foundation then and built the upstairs because they lived in the basement. Dorothy didn't move into the basement because the roads were unpaved, and she had to walk about 4 or 5 blocks to catch a bus. And she worked in an office downtown, the Kaufmans. So she went to live with. We were going to be married shortly, but so she went to live with her sister in Bloomfield. Stanley, Jim, Josephine, and Bobby. Dominic DeFalco. See the deer? Him and Ernie would go deer hunting. Dominic was married to one of the DeBaldo girls. Ernie was married to the other DeBaldo girl. Ernie and Mary, where Debbie's living at now, then the Baldos lived there, and on the corner was a small kitchen. And Ernie and Mary and Ronnie Tronzo, the little kid, that was their kitchen. Grandma DeBaldo used the kitchen in the basement. They had a big kitchen in the basement, big long table. They had a lot of kids. They had 11 kids. And Dominic lived across the street from Tony. He built that little house across the street from Tony. He was a great hunter. He always got a deer. This is the steps going up to the kitchen. You see the pump? There used to be a pump there. That well is still there. There was a few that would have pumps, that would have wells. We had water then, but I mean, when the well was built, there was no city water. That's a record player. Look at that truck. Diane, Doreen. Rose, Bobby, and Butch. That's Uncle Jim with Butch and Doreen. Ricky's birthday. Now that's Felix Scaletti and Loretta, Tony's sister and her husband. And this is Donna Jean. Confirmation that she stood for her confirmation. Doreen. Butch, Diane, and Rose, Butch, Dolores, Diane. Well, that's Josephine. Butch, Doreen, Dolores, Diane,